And what is that? That smells good? Does it smell like? A weed from the desert. No, it does smell good. It smells good. I have to be so sarcastic. I'm sorry, sweetie. I, it just comes naturally to me. And I have to tell you now, you're going to question this because I know how you are. You're a very intelligent little girl. But I guarantee you that I heard this in Michigan at a children's story. And I thought Shelley was going to do the children's story today, but there was a miscommunication. And so she came over just a minute ago and said, well, you are going to tell the story, aren't you? And I'm going, oh man, I got to, all these stories run through my head. And I got a lot of stories. When you get to be more than 20 years old, like I am, you have a lot of stories to tell. But this one just stands out amongst all the stories I've ever heard in my life. And like I say, the pastor, or it's like a junior pastor that told the story, he said, it's a true story. So here we go. You ready? All right. There was a little girl, probably much like you, maybe a little bit younger. What are you, like 14, 16? 17. Okay, 7 years. Okay. 7, all right. So she was maybe 7 or 8 is about her age. So she had not been a Christian very long, but her family had not, and her mom and dad got baptized, and she was there, and she wanted to be, she was in Sabbath school, and she did a lot of activities with the church. And she heard in Sabbath school, have you heard this in Sabbath school? If you pray for something, and it's not, and it's God's will, you'll get something that you pray for, right? You ask in prayer, right? Okay, we got it. You ask in prayer, and it'll work out. Well, this little girl wanted a kitty cat. She wanted a baby kitten. And she talked to her mom about it, and Mom said, you know what, sweetie, we really don't want a kitten because you're 8 years old and you need to learn how to take care of it. And we, Mom and Dad both work, and so there's a lot of issues there. And so she was very sad that she couldn't have a kitten. But then she went to Sabbath school, and she heard the story about if you pray and you ask God for something that you really want, it'll work out. So what did she start doing? She started praying. She did, and she prayed when she first got up in the morning, and she prayed at night, and sometimes she prayed when she was playing outside. Well, just so happened that there was a new pastor for their church that was, he lived just like down the street from them. Maybe it was even closer than that, maybe right next door. And I have to tell you about older cars. Do you know what a bumper on a car is? No, because see, it's too new. They're too new. The cars today don't have bumpers. I don't know what they expect you to bump with, but they don't have bumpers. But they used to be like they were a piece of metal that kind of came around the front of the car, and then there was one on the back, and it came around the back of the car. So if you did bump something, it was a big, hard piece of metal, and if you did bump something, it wouldn't tear your car up. So I suppose that's why they don't have them now, because they really like when you do tear your car up, if you bump something. But anyway, and the metal was shaped like this, okay? It was round, it was long, but it had edges right here. So you need to understand, that's why I explain it, that this part and this part of the bumper were sharp. They were pieces of metal and they were sharp. So anyway, this little girl prayed about that kitty cat all the time because she really, really wanted to have a little baby kitty. Well, the pastor had a neighbor friend, an older lady, that had a cat that had had kittens. And the kittens kept running away. And the mama cat would go and get them and bring them back home, of course. Well, then finally what happened is the kittens got a little bit older, and they'd run away, and the mama couldn't get them back. Well, the lady that owned the cat was very concerned because there was a kitten caught up in a tree, and she couldn't get it down. She couldn't get it to come down. She tried to give it food to come down and all those things, and it wouldn't come down. So she called the pastor to help her, to come and help her, because that's what pastors do, get kittens out of trees. And so the pastor went to the tree, and it wasn't a big tree. It probably was about as high as that, not much taller than that. That's not a big tree. And it was a young tree, so it had like a trunk about that big around. And he tried and tried and tried to get that kitten to come down. He tried to get up on something to reach, and of course the cat would scratch him. That's what kitties do. They just get crazy, and they scratch his hands up. And he... Well, the girl isn't in the picture yet. She doesn't have a kitten. But you know what? This cat is right over there is where the cat is in the tree. And right here, there's a big high fence. And in this yard is where the little girl is. Well, just so happened, the pastor decided that if he put a rope on the bumper of his car and reached in that tree as high as he could and tied it on the main trunk, he could pull with the car, he could move the car over like this, and it would pull that tree, bend it over and get it down where he could reach that kitten and get it out of that tree. Now right over here, there's the tree. The pastor's pulling the tree that way, trying to get the cat down. Over here is the little girl. See where she is? She's over here. And she's kneeling down because she was playing in the yard with her dollies, and she thought about it, and she thought, you know what? Jesus, I really would like to have a kitten. And Mama said, if I prayed about it, God would work it out, and it would be for the best, whatever happened. She's praying. The pastor's over there stretching that car, stretching that rope, stretching that rope. He gets out, he can't quite reach it. He's going, okay, kitty. Gets in there and he pulls that car just a little bit further forward. Now remember, he's tied this rope to the bumper, and what's on this bumper? What is it? It's sharp. What happens when something sharp gets on a rope and they pull it? What happens? What do you think would happen? You're right. That rope broke. This is the part that's hard to do with it. Straight face. However, that kitty flew through the air, over the fence, and landed right beside the little girl while she was trying to get it. You think she had to keep it? Yes. Yes, she did. Her mom said, if God wants you to have a kitten that bad, then you can have that kitten. So I tell you, sometimes we're afraid. We think if we pray for something like a cat, God is kind of busy. Maybe he's not going to listen, but that's not true. There's nothing. You got it. There's nothing God cannot do, and there's nothing that you have a problem with, that you're interested in, that he's not interested in. He always does the best for us. So, I bet you pray every day.
I was praying about
a dog. It did come true already? Amen. That's right. That's the thing, is no matter what. Papa, you don't know. You don't know this story. Okay. So anyway, there's nothing that you have a concern about, that you have problems with, that you want to take care of, that you can't take to God. And I think you know that already, don't you? Yes, you do. Yep, she does. Get ready, Mama. Here comes a puppy. Okay. I really appreciate you always, because you always pay attention to the story. You do. I watch all the kids, and some kids are like looking around and stuff, but you always pay attention. And it's always fun to tell you a story. So just remember, whatever issue you have in your life, always, because there'll be more issues and worse issues as you go along. Exactly. You think of God, and you take it to him in prayer. You want to come up here and have prayer? You want to pray? You want me to? Okay.
Dear Jesus, thank